All right. Welcome to Mostmoto Mindset of Successful Thinking. Moto is short for motivation. I'm here today with a good friend of mine. I truthfully believe is a good friend of mine. That's Rob Simbeck.
It's good to be here.
Definitely. So thank you for being here, man.
Absolutely.
So we wanted to just really discuss with Rob and just really want to get his story. Rob is a unique individual to me, a very passionate individual about relationships. So I wanted to make sure we get together and discuss that, how your passion will actually get you in the places that, because of your relationships. The passion that you have, you also now open up doors for different relationships in life. Now, Rob has a passion of writing. Rob is a writer. Show us the books here.
The new one, I ghosted for Cal Turner, our mutual friend, former CEO of Dollar General, a book called My Father's Business. It's his story, personal and professional. I did a book with Eddie and Tamara George. Taj, she's the spark plug.
You know about SWV, right? And you know about Eddie George, of course, from the Titans. So.
And we did a book together a few years back, and I've done them on music, I've done them on history. This is one about a Nashville aviator named Cornelia Fort.
Female aviator, right?
Yeah, who had an airport named after in town. But yeah, that's my passion. And indirectly, you and I met, or our relationship deepened because of writing.
Yeah, that's right.
Once I met you, I knew, when you meet this guy that you got something special going on. And so we became friends. We started talking.
We did. Started off rocky, but it got real good. No, but definitely, yeah. See, Rob is a person that oftentimes tells the stories of other people and does it well. He talks about the story. He don't mind talking about other people's story, but I believe that everyone has a story. And Rob has a unique story, a story that, because everyone has like their own DNA. They have their own fingerprints. And someone that like to be behind the scenes like Rob, I wanted to make sure that Rob get his story out to more people, even though you could do that easily without any problem. I'm quite sure at some time, I'm hoping that you're going to write your own book about yourself.
We'll see.
We'll see, exactly. But Rob's story is so powerful to me to see. This is like coming like a phoenix from the ashes in a sense to me, having a passion for music, finding out, you find out so much about this individual when he loves to take pictures of little nature and birds to just seeing the beauty in life in general, but mainly the importance that he loves people, and it shows and it's evident. And at Mostmoto, we're always talking about the importance of relationships. Two most important currencies in life to me is time and relationships. Time is something that you can't get back, so you got to invest it wisely. Relationships will get you places that money can't buy you. Yeah. That's what I truly believe. And I believe that since I developed a relationship with Rob, he's been able to actually introduce me to people that money and a cold call wouldn't work. And that's a unique thing. So I said, Rob, we have to tell your story to more people, and not you writing ghostwrite about someone else, but really get to know you. And when you see someone that has a heart of gold, that's pure in what they do, and it's all about just showing the love. This individual Rob has relationships across the spectrum. I went to an event where actually with Cal Turner's book launch, and so many people from all walks of life, literally, want to make sure they come and shake your hand. They want to make sure they say, hey, Rob, I'm here to support. Although they're here to support Cal as well, but they're here to support your dream and ambition. So I wanted you to tell us a little bit about the story of the good, the bad, the ugly, and then also the greatness of what you're doing now and meet new people.
Well, I think the point that we want to make is that I went through a really dark time. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I haven't had a drink in almost 31 years, and more than 31 years actually. And I sobered up in Nashville about 4 years after I moved here. I grew up with the twin passions of writing and music. I had a band from the time I was 12 years old. I started writing in high school. I worked with a school paper. I was city editor of a daily in Pennsylvania in my early 20s, edited a magazine in Los Angeles. And through all that, I was a social drinker who quickly became problematic. It was about to wreck my life. I was in Nashville. I had drunk through 2 careers, and in 1987, I just hit bottom, knew I couldn't do it anymore, knew that if I didn't sober up, I was going to die. And we had talked about this before. The trick is, what do you do when you're in a situation where you need help. You see what society offers and look for the best help that matches up with you. And I found a program that really helped me pull out.
But it wasn't easy to probably get to that point though, because you had to admit that something was going on.
You have to admit that you are not in control of your life. And that's hard for most of us to do. We want to think that we're masters of our fate and in control of everything. And to get to the point where anything, drugs, alcohol, sex addiction, gambling, shopping, I mean, there's a million ways to go haywire. There's a million ways to go bad. And once I got to that point, it took me years to get to where I said, I need to find people who can help me. And I need to get right with the universe too. And so once those things happened, it was a slow crawl out of that. And I believe I still had the love for and knack for music and writing, but I'd kind of set those aside, and I started
yourself fixed.
To get me squared away. And once I did, I started rebuilding those from the bottom. And relationships are the key to all of it. It's being good to the people that you meet. It's hanging with the ones who can be supportive, who've got positive aims, who know what to do in terms of what to do with your talent, what to do with your passion. For me, it's about where do my talents meet the world's needs? How can I do? And for me, writing and storytelling and helping people with stories to tell, get them out there. And
just like in the sense of coping, that's how you cope with things, like, I write for someone else or write about them. That's helping you, the story. I really believe if you help enough people get to where they need to be, you in turn will be helped out as well.
Yeah, it's, to form the relationships, I'm still on great terms with everybody I've helped with books. And in a situation like meeting you, here's somebody who's trying to do something for the world. I mean, this is, you see problems, you came from problems. What do I do to contribute my little bit to make this world better? And Lord knows the world needs to be better. And so I want to be part of that. I want to hang with people who do that.
So what do you say about the individual say, I don't need to hang around positive influence? Because, you hang around folks that, just people, if you need to go somewhere, you'll find someone to hang with you. If it's people that want to drink, you'll find people to drink. If it's people that want to go do some promiscuous stuff, you find people to hang with that. So the importance of relationships and getting with the right crowd is the important thing. They help you get from where you are with the sobriety idea, with the fact of drinking and stuff. But your upbringing, what was your upbringing like? What made you get to that point?
There was a quick point to make before I do that.
Okay.
We didn't create the world that we live in, but we can create the world that we operate in.
Okay, I like that.
And I think that it's really important to draw around you people who share a vision, who share a goal. And it may not be an occupation, it may not be interests on any sense of the word, but it's people who want to better themselves and others, who want to be part of a great community. So we do create, the world that we operate in. My background, I grew up in a little town in Pennsylvania. It was a mill town. There were 8,000 people in the town and 6,000 factory jobs. People came from all over the area. People were supportive. These were mostly German immigrants from the 1850s to 1870s, and they revered work, education, and I had a great opportunity as a kid to learn and to be motivated. By the time I went to college, I had to start sowing my wild oats.
Oh yeah, you had to start sowing them, huh? You had to go coming to America on them, huh?
I did, and so I majored in poetry writing. I mean, I wanted to write.
Okay.
There was no straight occupation that really thrilled me as much as writing or music. And so I played a lot of music while I was
going into the mills and working didn't really...
No, it did not grab me.
You didn't want to get black lung disease or anything like that?
No, it didn't grab me. And so I went to college and then got that first newspaper job. I still had bands. I moved to Rochester, New York, played in bands
So you
there.
actually like doing music? Was that something that grew up in the household? Like your mom played certain music all the time, or dad played music, or just
My mom sang with big bands when she was young. She was in the Miss Pennsylvania pageant in the 1940s. She was a singer. I had an uncle who was a singer, sang a lot of country stuff. And so I learned to play guitar after the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show, had a band a year later. And that stayed through.
So you're motivated. Have you seen the Beatles do their thing?
I said, how could I not, as an 11-year-old, fall in love with four guys playing music and having girls love them?
All the time. See? Have the girls
all the time. And it brought out the creative side of me. I realized that, part of why we're here is to find out about our creative selves, to share that with each other. And writing became the way I figured out who I was.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't always know how to react to situations until I wrote them through, whether it was political or anything. What do I think about this? Let me try to write it through. Essays I wrote in high school, it meant a lot to me. I was able to work through some of that stuff. I lived in Rochester, New York. Moved to Los Angeles. I was a magazine editor and had a band out there, and moved to Nashville as a songwriter in 1982. And that brought us up to the part where last couple of years of my drinking, had trouble with it, and sort of recreated myself with music more to the side, and this kind of writing taking center stage. And through all of it, I realized, as you have, that without a great team of friends and colleagues around me, I'm just kind of bobbing like a cork on the sea of life.
Right.
I want people who are rowing in a good direction.
Not rowing sideways.
Not sideways, not three rowing forward and four rowing back. I want everybody with a good direction in mind.
I got you. So when it got to that point, you moved to Nashville, 82.
82. Yeah.
You got here, you said, I'm going to live the big dream of doing the music. What got you to the point where the drinking habit started?
I'd been drinking since I was a teenager.
Oh, okay.
And I knew I was alcoholic early on.
Oh, you knew that from it?
I knew it from the time I was 19 years old.
Oh, you said, oh man, I'm just drinking this thing up. I'm in the bottle.
But the thing is, I thought it was part of the job description.
Oh, you better be a musician.
So many great musicians and great authors were alcoholics.
But think about it, even in the rap industry, they always talking about drugs and drinking and smoking, and you got to smoke to get to the best altitude of writing, where oh, he was high, and he was so high, man, he wrote the best song ever. And you said it's part of like in rock and roll and anything else, you say, hey, you need to be drunk when you do something.
Exactly.
And I actually know, believe it or not, I do know people that actually do some great music while they're drunk. I mean, it's like, hey, you don't want to tell someone to drink, but hey, you actually write better when you're drunk.
I know people like that too. It doesn't work for me.
Right.
Because once I'm drinking and writing songs, I'm a lot more fond of drinking than the writing.
Oh, got it.
It gets me off the rails. And even the people who do great work, while they're under the influence, almost invariably, they either burn out or come to tragic ends. Is it worth it? Is that what I want to choose? And for most people, I can tell you, I'm a lot more prolific, I'm a lot more clever, I'm a lot more creative when I'm sober.
Okay.
In my case, it is a proven fact. I've done over 20 books now. The number I did drinking was 0.
Got it. And you opened up your mind. Your mind was definitely sober with that. So when you found out I have an issue, how did you come to grips to say, I got an issue? I knew I was alcoholic when I was younger, but now I have an issue. It was an intervention. Did someone sit you down and say, Rob, we have your mom, dad, and cousin here? And
we didn't do that one.
Okay.
My sister, though, mailed me a book about recovering from alcoholism. She didn't lecture me. She just said, you might find this interesting. So my family knew I was in trouble. And for me, after all the things I'd done, including wrecking cars and going to hospitals, it was a morning in April of 1987 in my rented room in East Nashville where I knew I was dying.
Just 5 years later.
I just knew I was dying. And so I started looking for help.
But that came to a decision you made on your own. No matter what no one said, no one told you. I mean, you came to grips yourself. And I think it's what people need to learn, that you come to grips yourself that I need to change something.
Exactly. And we both know that many people in this audience have people in their lives who are in trouble with drugs,
I
alcohol,
just got a text yesterday from someone that said, "Hey, my brother's spiraling badly. He's hooked on opioids."
Yep.
So do you know anyone? And I'm like, I don't. But I do. But I'm gonna make it. I don't know him personally, but I'm gonna make calls, and that's what I've been doing to try to help that. But I think that person still has to make a decision on their own. To
exactly.
Say,
to tell a person one time, I love you, and I think you have a problem with, say, drugs and alcohol. Here's what I know about it. There are ways, that there's NA and there's treatment and there's this stuff. I hope you will check that out. After the first time you tell somebody, it's just nagging and it only makes them mad. Once they know you love them and you care and you think they have a problem,
leave it alone.
In my experience, leave it alone. If they come to you for help sincerely, I'll do anything I can for them. But it's like you said, something inside me as the alcoholic or addict has to break and has to be receptive. Everybody, you can do, there are people who do interventions, and I'm not knocking that, but ultimately, as we're talking about, it's got to be me. It's got to be the person.
Yeah. And then after you did that in 87,
yep,
I need to find some help. And you just made that, you just started searching around and...
Yeah, and I found my outlet. And again, there are things like AA and NA, and there are church-related groups, and there are other kind of groups, and it's worth checking them out.
What was your outlet?
If my outlet was one of those that would be anonymous, I wouldn't be telling
you. Got it.
But they're all worth checking out, I know they do good things. I know AA and NA do very good things. And they're full of people who are going in the same direction that I was. I didn't know if I'd be there forever, but I knew for the time being, I want to be around people who want to go from out of control living to a life that's worth living. And it took a couple years before I found my footing again.
You said because you crawled out. Sometimes you in that dust, crawling is going to be the only thing you can do.
Exactly.
So after you rebirth from that, you got from that, and then when did you find the true love of writing books?
I started writing for magazines. I started writing.
Because you had a paper. You were working for a paper when you graduated school, stuff like that.
Right. I had done that before, and I didn't want to work for a specific newspaper or magazine, so I started freelancing. I'd send pieces to different magazines and newspapers, started getting them published, started getting my feet under me. In Nashville, I was writing bios. I wrote for Waylon Jennings and Kenny Rogers and just a lot of people.
Before you got to that point, though, Rob, I think people need to understand is that it was times you had no's, though. How many no's?
Oh my goodness!
It's that because they hear the great thing. Oh, he wrote for Kenny Rogers, blah blah blah. But so he was successful. But I'm quite sure as you was crawling out and you was going through all the hardships, it was hardships there where it was like a no, I don't want your service.
I know people who stopped writing after the first rejection they got from a magazine. I saved mine. I had two boxes full of rejection, and that was a day when it was snail mail. This was not an email. This was a letter that someone sent and said, nope, can't use it, or sorry, we don't have room for this, or this doesn't fit what we do.
You just kept going.
I kept going. The thing with your passion is that you don't have to be talked into and can't be talked out of your passion. If writing doesn't get you out of bed in the morning to do it just because you have to do it, it's not going to happen.
Rob, that was a profound. That just encouraged me. You follow what I'm saying? No one has to motivate me to do things like this. No one has to motivate me to speak to people, encourage them, edify them. But at times it can get tough.
Yeah.
But the fact, like you just said, but if it's a passion of yours, there's no, I don't have to worry about or have to have somebody, come on, you can do it. Like you have to go do a 9 to 5 or something.
Well, you want to find people who encourage you, but
yeah, you want to have that, but it's
but if you have to be talked into,
somebody can easily talk you out of it.
Yeah. It's like the guys who play pro ball. They don't have to be talked into suiting up in the morning, going out there and banging heads. They want to be there. They feel driven. And if you're not driven to do a creative task, it's not going to happen. There are people with talent who don't have the motivation. And so I want to be around people who encourage me, but I want to do the thing that just lights me up and makes me enjoy getting up in the morning, which is what writing is for me.
And you found that idea of writing books. You said you send stuff into magazines and stuff, and you start writing bios. And When did you get your first big opportunity to write a book somewhere?
My first one, I was writing for a magazine called The Tennessee Conservationist, and it was a series about the Tennessee state symbols, the state capital, the flag, the state bird, the state tree, state songs, all that stuff. I was writing one article per issue. We started getting letters from teachers saying, this is great, I teach Tennessee history, and my 7th graders, we could use a book like this. So the light bulb went off.
Entrepreneurship.
So I approached the University of Tennessee Press, and I said, would you be interested in a book like this? It took them 2 years to get back to me and complete the process. And they said, yes, we would like to do this. But it was clear they weren't on the same page with me as to what exactly the book was. And I didn't think that they could market it any better than I could. So I self-published it. I got a book on self-publishing. It's called The Self-Publishing Manual by Dan Poynter, Poynter. And because I had a friend who'd self-published a book and got himself on the Today Show. And again, it was the passion. I put those articles together into a book, had it printed in Michigan, 3,500 copies. And I'd laid the groundwork so well and worked so hard that I sold them in 6 weeks. And
I need to take that. I need to go read that book.
And so I bought another 3,500, and it took me about a year to sell those. I had them in my trunk. I'd go into stores. I spoke to 42 different TV, radio stations, and newspapers, and just it was the passion. And so that taught me the book business, so that when I got published in New York or with another publisher, I knew about contracts. I knew how much it takes, because even after you write a book, you want to sell it. You know, I don't want the copy sitting in my garage.
Exactly,
and so that's a whole nother job after you write the book.
Man, tell me about it.
As you well know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Tell me, so this is a good thing about it. So now that you've gotten a passion to write those books, the relationship that you establish, because after you meet one person, they say, hey, and they want to write a book, they say, well, you need to meet this person. Hey, Rob, you need to meet that person. Tell us about how that opened up doors for you to meet certain people.
With the book I did with Eddie and Tamara George, I went to, through them, I met Bishop Joseph Walker. I worked with him on a book as an editor. With Cal, I've met so many people. With the people I met in the music industry, one would lead to another. I did a piece on a man from Nashville who was a Navy pilot who was held in the Hanoi Hilton as a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War, and he was in the same group as Senator John McCain. And I did a piece on him and met Senator McCain, who said, I love that man. He was the one we all looked up to there. Got to meet him. And it's just one after the other. And sometimes, you know, it doesn't happen that way. But as you know, if you just kind of open yourself up to friendship and to trading, it amounts to love. You know, we're trading love with each other. We're, you know, opportunities.
Getting this energy going, getting that all going, and you start moving. The universe start moving around and start making some things happen.
And you never know where it's going to go. And it's led me to a lot of wonderful places on all aspects of society. All kind of, you know, no two books are about the same kind of topics. You know, there's music, there's history, there's sports, there's a little bit of everything, of nature, because everything interests me as a writer, and humans interest me. I wrote a lot for a magazine called Guideposts, which tells the stories of how people have gotten through difficult circumstances, you know, with their faith, with their motivation. And any kind of person qualifies. Doesn't matter the background. Everybody faces tough situations. Everybody who gets through them has a great message to share with other people.
So everybody has a story to share.
Yep.
Rob Simbeck has a story to share. I'm looking forward to when your book comes out.
It's in the back of my.
I know it's in the back of my mind. It's on the back of the shelf somewhere too. So before we go, I want you to just, you know, tell our audience here. They may be going through those trials. They may be going through a point of knowing that, hey, I have an issue or a problem, but I don't know how to face that. But then they may want to be motivated to say, okay, I'm in it. I'm actually trying to go through transition, but I'm almost going back. I'm going to go back if I don't get this fixed. What would you say, your last words to that individual that may be going through hardship, knowing they got to crawl out of it, but it's light at the end of the tunnel?
There are people willing to help each and every one of us. Not everybody will, and part of the trick is not to be discouraged, not to, you got to, even if it's life and death, you will hear no sometimes. You might show up in a hospital emergency room and get told, no, we can't do anything with you. You got to find that spot inside of you that wants to live and nurture it, and find the people who will come alongside you in that journey. There are so many ways to go sideways, and it's a matter of holding on to that faith, to that confidence that life is worth living. It's the feeling you have when you're a kid a lot of times, before you know any better, when it's just fun for no reason.
Yeah.
There's that place for all of us as adults in a troubled world, offering other people help because you've gotten through something, is that playful, childhood, joyful feeling again. We exist, I think, to love and help each other. And if you're in a tight spot, the trick is to hang on, look for the people who've come through it, take them as examples, contact people who you think might be able to help you, and you'll find somebody to work with you.
Make a decision.
Make that decision.
It's a decision. And then make sure you stay around the right people to cultivate that.
Yep.
Good soil produce great fruit. You gotta be in good soil. You can't be, one thing, you got the seed. You can take a seed and put it on this table, it will not grow. There's nothing for it to attach to. But if you put it into some soil, there's gonna be some weeds that grow around it and things, you gotta pull it out. But the good soil will help you produce good fruit. So hey, go ahead.
And you are worth it. That's the trick. The bottom line is, each and every one of us, no matter where we've been, no matter what we've done, is worth saving, is worth nurturing, is worth finding that place in this world where we can pass on the love that's been given to us.
Look at that. Look, remember, the true outcome of having a mindset of successful thinking is having an unwavering expectation of successfully achieving a predetermined goal, knowing that the outcome was supposed to happen. Look, we're all about changing lives. Change someone's life today, but most of all, you got to change yourself. That's what Rob Simbeck seen. He changed himself, and then he telling the story of other people. But what's most important is that he know he has a story as well. So I thank you so much, Rob, for being a part
Love
of
this guy. Glad I'm here. Thanks for doing this.
Definitely. So you have a good day, and thank you for being a part of Mostmoto. There we go, man. Thanks. Appreciate that.